I am strong.
I am fast.
I am brave.
I am powerful.
I am powerful.
I am powerful.
I am driven.
I am driven.
I am unstoppable.
I am unstoppable.
I have grit.
I have determination.
I deserve to play.
We deserve to compete.
We deserve the same resources.
The same opportunities.
We are equal.
I am equal.
I am equal.
I am an athlete.
I am an athlete.
I am an athlete.
And I
am a woman.
Thank you for joining us for this Fox 9 special. I'm Dawn Mitchell.
And I'm Hannah Flood. June 23rd of this year marks 50 years since Title IX was passed into law. This landmark law prohibits discrimination based on sex in educational programs and activities, including sports.
And in this Fox 9 special, we celebrate Minnesotans who fought hard to make sure that girls and women could equally have the right to play sports.
To appreciate how far we've come, let's take a look back at the history of women in sports in Minnesota. Starting in 1883, just a few years after basketball was invented, it was introduced to girls and women studying at Carleton College in Northfield, Minnesota.
And the sport quickly gained popularity. By the 1900s, schools across the state had girls basketball programs and tournaments. And by 1925, even International Falls had girls basketball teams. However, attitudes changed in the 1930s, and many people thought that it was unhealthy for girls and women to play competitive sports. And by the 1940s, virtually most programs had been cut.
For the next 30 years or so, most girls and women only had the opportunity to play sports in for-fun, non-competitive associations. That is until the early 1970s, when after much activism from girls and women across the state, the first ever woman was appointed to the Minnesota State High School League. A few years later, Title IX was passed into law, solidifying girls' and women's place in sports.
Those changes were possible thanks to people who fought for women's place in sports.
We're highlighting some of those stories, including one local woman's fight to play tennis. Her story forever impacted how Title IX is implemented across the country.
It was one of those things. I just loved the sport and I liked to play and I wanted to get as good as I possibly could.
The sport Peg Brendan loved was tennis. In 1971, she was about to start her senior year at St. Cloud Tech High School and was desperately searching for a way to follow her passion.
At that time, there were no girls' interscholastic sports programs at St. Cloud Tech. In fact, there weren't very many across Minnesota or across the nation.
Because of that, she tried joining the boys' team at her school, but again and again was told no.
That struck me that was unfair because I had the same love of the game and skills. I knew I could compete with these guys.
With no other options, she wrote this letter to the Minnesota branch of the ACLU asking for help.
Just outlined my predicament that I wanted to play, that the only team at my school was a boys' team. P.S. Please hurry, I'm a senior.
Peg said she was surprised when the ACLU decided to take up her case along with another young Minnesota athlete named Tony St. Pierre. By April of 1972, their case made it to state court.
It was something that I could see was in the newspaper. My sister's name was on in the headlines.
Peg's younger sister, Sherry, was in middle school while all of this was going on. Since then, she's written about the case that historically went in Peg and Tony's favor. Peg joined the boys' team with just a few matches left in the season.
I won 3 matches and I lost 2. And that was enough to earn my high school letter that year.
While the case was a victory, it only carved out a space for Peg and Tony to play. When the State High School League appealed the case, it was back in court and was one of the first times Title IX was applied to sports.
It sort of kick-started this whole notion that all sorts of girls could expect that same protection and that same opportunity.
Peg went on to play tennis in college and later became a workers' compensation judge in Minnesota. Her case helped push forward Title IX requirements that forced schools to create opportunities for girls to play, just like Peg always wanted to.
That I hope I inspire others to do this, to do something, to make a difference. We all have it in us.
Lindsay Whalen is one of our most successful female athletes. She recently found out she will be inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame this fall. I sat down with Lindsay to discuss how Title IX changed her life.
The 97 team, that men's team that went to the Final Four, that was, that was my team. I loved that team.
There's a pick by Jackson.
I know a lot happened. We found out later, but watching it as a kid, as a sophomore in high school, like that was my dream to do it on the women's side though. Throughout that whole year, watched them, and so that's a big reason of that team, because I was like, I want to do that here, but on the women's side, I want to prove that we can have that much support for the women's team, and and it worked out.
You talk about how you had all the Gopher men's stuff to inspire you when you were growing up.
Yeah.
And now it's like a blink of an eye, right? 20-something years later.
Yeah.
You look and young girls, Title IX, some, they know what it is, but they don't know life before it, right? Most of us, I didn't know life before it.
Nope.
But to see now that they have your picture on the wall, they have WNBA or they have Gophers, it's kind of cool to see even the transformation that has happened. Could you even imagine what your life would be without Title IX?
No, I mean, this is all I've done is basketball since I was 16. Even before I played sports growing up, and so I had that opportunity of playing sports. One opportunity I didn't have was playing hockey, because I started out playing hockey.
Oh.
And so, and the funny thing is Title IX was at 80, because I'm born in 82.
Yeah, 72.
So 72.
Yeah.
So 10 years in is when, because I turned 40 this year. I don't turn 50.
Oh.
So Title IX.
Don't look a day over 25.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Title IX is 7 years older than me. And so, it's, I don't know, late 80s, and I want to play hockey because my family's from Grand Forks, North Dakota. I'm like, I'm going to play hockey. I'm going to play in the NHL. And so I was the only girl, though. I was the only girl. And I only played hockey until 5th grade. And there was no girls varsity out in Hutch. There was some girls varsity programs popping up here in the cities, and I'm pretty sure that's why, Natalie and Chrissy and those guys they were so good because they played on, girls teams and traveling teams, and then they played high school. Well, we didn't have that in Hutch. So I switched to basketball at that point, because my parents knew that, okay, your friend group is going to be who you're playing sports with, and I was going to obviously play sports. And so I switched to basketball in 6th grade. And then obviously the rest is history. By the time I was a junior, senior in high school, there was girls varsity in Hutch. And now there's a great team. They have a great program. So that was a big transformational, where for me, there wasn't that opportunity in hockey. There was that opportunity in basketball. But now there's that opportunity as well in hockey and other sports. So, and like I said, then from 16 on, I'm in, high-level AAU, come to the U of M, play in the WNBA, play overseas, play in the Olympic team, and now I'm the head coach here. And none of it would be possible without Title IX. And so, that whole story, everything we've talked about, if there wasn't Title IX, if there wasn't that, and I feel like not just the law and what was, put into government, but people then there's stories, I read Pat Summitt's book of her driving the bus to the first game and making their uniforms. Driving the van to their games, and they had to make their own uniforms, and they had to do their own laundry, and now here we are in this state-of-the-art multi-million-dollar facility that this is our court. This court is just for women's basketball. The men have their court, we have our court. So not only has there been pioneers that have come along the way and given us this opportunity, but then there's been financial support from, schools like the University of Minnesota, from people who donate very generously to this institution, to this university, in a multitude of different ways. But for sports, it's we have all this because of that. So you can't even. It's so big that you can't even really. It's hard to really put into words how much. To quantify what it's meant and what it's. All I've done is basketball. All I've done is basketball, and I'll be 40 this year. So 25 years of college, developmental years, early professional years. Now it's my 4th year as head coach. That's all I've done is basketball, and it's 100% because of Title IX.
When we come back, a basketball star who is a game changer on many levels.
And lesson learned on the tennis court takes one woman to the state's highest court.
Title IX means to me a lot because I get to represent girls, especially people who have disabilities, like I do, and even like people without. It's kind of cool, and just hanging out and just like playing sports, even though cause I do like different sports, even ones that you wouldn't think a girl would play, and it's just kind of fun.
Title IX to me is all about providing academic and athletic opportunities for females. And it's really the foundation, I think, of the growth of women's sports in the last 30 years.
Welcome back to this Fox 9 special celebrating the 50th anniversary of Title IX. There are nearly 118,000 girls in Minnesota playing some kind of high school sport. Researchers at the U of M are studying the benefits of girls in sports, like how lessons learned on the tennis court helped a Minnesotan land a spot on the state's highest court.
It meant the world to be able to compete at that level and to have, a state championship on the line.
In 1975, Margaret Chudich was a senior at Anoka High School, fighting for the state title at the second ever girls' state high school tennis tournament. This was just a couple years after she was forced to play on the boys' team because there weren't any competitive options for girls.
It gave me such confidence to know that I could perform, and I could perform under pressure.
She would go on to win that tournament, play sports in college, and take what she learned on the tennis court to work her way up to a spot on the state Supreme Court.
But it taught me how to win and how to lose, hopefully with grace for both of those things.
Researchers have found a strong correlation between girls' athletics and success in careers. A study by Ernst & Young found 94% of women in C-suite business leadership positions played some kind of organized sport growing up.
So we know that when girls and women are afforded the opportunity, there are a lot of positive things that can happen.
Dr. Nicole Lavoie studies girls and women's participation in sports at the Tucker Center at the University of Minnesota. Her research shows 50 years after Title IX was passed, more girls than ever have access to that opportunity.
We have record numbers of girls and women playing sport. We have fans that are engaged in women's sport. Viewership is going up, and industry stakeholders are starting to invest in women's sport.
Investments that under Title IX are now required to be equal for girls and boys.
Back in 1972, the budget for boys' hockey sticks in the state of Minnesota was greater than all the money spent on all girls' sports in Minnesota. And think how that's changed in 50 years.
And that change is opening doors for girls and women to change the world.
It's just a great training ground, I think, for leadership.
A local Native American basketball star is a game changer on many levels. Jessie Stomsky-Syme not only ruled on the basketball court, she now battles in court to ensure Native Americans have equal opportunity in life and in sports.
Well, sports in general, but basketball in particular changed my life profoundly.
Twin Cities native Jessie Stomsky-Syme is an accomplished basketball star. The former Badger Hall of Famer went on to play in the WNBA and in Europe. She's also a proud enrolled citizen of the Muskogee Nation of Oklahoma and now general counsel for the Prairie Island Indian community. For Jessie, the game of basketball opened doors to generational change.
Nobody in my family went to college, so it wasn't something that I immediately thought of doing, going to college, until someone watched me play basketball and said, you will be able to go to pretty much any college you want to. And then that opened that door for me.
Now Jessie makes it her life's work to keep doors open on many levels, including sports.
Basketball and sports are huge in Indian country. There's so much talent in Indian country, and we need to make sure that those opportunities are getting to Native people. Right now, 0.37%, so less than 0.5% of all student athletes across all three divisions of the NCAA are Native. And that just doesn't reflect the tradition and the culture of sports and competition, the incredible athletes in Indian country, and so we set out to address that.
Youth programs like this one in Little Earth, led by Coach Muckwa Roberts, is helping develop kids who want to play the game, but it's only the beginning.
What the Red Bears are and what they're doing, that's the real story. Like, you know, I've gotten the privilege of being in a room with decision makers, and my job is to take that light and that opportunity and shine it on the Red Bears and other organizations and other, you know, players from the Leech Lake Reservation in northern Wisconsin, and really make that connection to these opportunities, these high-level opportunities, and these kids who deserve all the opportunities.
Red Lake's Grace White is Ojibwe and continues to lead the change. She's currently finding success in D1 basketball.
She is currently at Valpo playing basketball. I think she was the conference player of the year. It's very hard, and I'm very proud of what she's done. I believe she's the the only person from her tribal community that's gone Division I to play basketball, so I'm very proud of her.
Syme knows generational change has been slow, but she's determined more than ever to use her voice and her platform to kick the doors wide open.
Federal termination policy, federal assimilation policy, that's not that long ago. That's my grandmother. We're still fighting a lot of the residual effects of that. You know, there's issues like mental health, chemical dependency, just opportunity, poverty, isolation. All of these things are still very real in tribal communities. So the fact that I get up every day and I use what I've gained through sports, my own personal gifts and my own privileges to address those things is incredibly powerful and meaningful to me. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about that I'm doing it for my father, my grandmother, my auntie, my uncle, and my ancestors who walked the Trail of Tears, who survived so that I could be here doing this.
Up next, passing the law, but then making sure it's working for girls and women. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to this Fox 9 special celebrating the 50th anniversary of Title IX.
Title IX passed in 1972, but simply passing the law wasn't enough. People had to fight to enact and implement change.
Not to be able to play sports like the boys, that bothered me. I was just as good as the boys. Often I beat the boys.
Barb Simonson Theobald went from not being able to play sports to becoming a first-hand recipient of Title IX's changes. She credits George Carter for changing her life.
I was elated. This was what I wanted. I wanted to play real basketball. I wanted to play like the boys. And so the first day I was like, this is what I've been dreaming of all of my life. So when he became the coach, I said, now I finally am going to get the same opportunity as the boys. And it just opened my eyes and my world.
81-year-old Coach Carter is a legend in Red Wing. He's been a teacher and a coach to both boys and girls for 60 years. And despite his humble, quiet demeanor, he's a powerful force, especially back in the 70s, supporting the newly passed Title IX.
But Title IX, I'm thankful we have it, but we should never have had it.
It should have been equal the whole time.
The whole time.
Title IX was one thing, enforcing it was another. George said administrators were opposed then to anything female, and so he fought for equality, right down to scheduling. The boys had games on one school night only, the girls 2.
Played on Tuesdays and Thursdays. The boys played Tuesday, Friday. And these kids would have flashlights on the bus to study. And we went to Old Town and Albert Lee on a Tuesday, Thursday, 2 school nights. And I approached all the superintendents and the athletic directors about changing the schedule. We had a lot of opposition, but under the law, you couldn't do it. So we went to a Tuesday, Friday.
Because it was okay for the females to have to do their schoolwork 2 nights a week and basketball, right?
Yeah,
but not the guys.
That was the attitude.
In 1978, George coached the girls' basketball team, which made a Cinderella run to the state tournament. Barb, the captain, known more for her defense than any scoring prowess, especially at the free throw line, became a powerhouse.
But at that new Prague game, I came alive for whatever reason, higher power there. And I won the game in overtime with free throws.
Wow.
And that's how we got to state.
They didn't win a title, but they gained so much more.
It was a fantastic time in my life, the happiest time of my life.
And it made you who you are today.
It made me who I am today. Because George believed in me, I believed I could do anything.
Barb followed in George's footsteps to his alma mater, Bemidji State, after high school. He even handed her scholarship application papers to pay for it. Barb went on to grad school and, yes, like George, is now a teacher in Red Wing. All due, she says, to a man who believed women can do anything.
Half of the minds in the country were as smart as the other half. That's where you start. And don't disavow what they can do.
So, yeah, George changed my life, totally. And I was just so excited to be able to be an athlete, and be a woman, and be a strong woman, and to have dreams for my life, and be able to achieve those.
Dawn Mitchell, Fox 9 Sports.
Oh, beautiful stories. Thanks so much for joining us for this Fox 9 special celebrating the 50th anniversary of Title IX.
We leave you with words from a high school student thankful for everyone who has paved the way for her to play.
I would just say thank you so much, because I mean, it's the 50th anniversary, but you think about it, 50 years isn't that long ago, you know, not even a lifetime. So, you know, they're still around, and I know they're still working to do even more.